Well, we're focusing on the first part of that report, the part where the chief whip of the Senate led 22 senators to the president, 22 aggrieved senators to the president's office to talk about how dissatisfied they are and perhaps to seek a way forward. Well, we have one of the senators, he'll tell me if he's aggrieved or not. Senator Dr. Ibrahim Yahaya Olori-Egbe is with us this morning. He's representing Kwara Central Senatorial District and is also the current chairman of the Senate Committee on Health. Distinguished, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So what exactly was the purpose of that visit? What exactly were you hoping to achieve? Because some people will say the primaries are over. This is almost akin to crying over spilt milk. What precisely are you hoping the president will be able to do in this situation?
Oh, thank you very much. The president is the overall leader of the party and, of course, the father of the nation. And the primary, yes, is being conducted in one way or the other. The senators that went to the president, I wouldn't say we are aggrieved again. I think we are progressive and concerned about the fate of our party because of the way the primaries were handled in many states. It didn't follow democratic processes. I could say in many states where we have governors, we are running what we call a governotocracy, where the governors just decide what could happen. The primary process ought to start with the election of delegates. In almost everywhere, there was no proper election of delegates. Delegates were selected by the governors or by some individuals where there are no governors in the party. The delegate election process ought to be just like the primary, where delegates obtain forms, where there will be proper congresses. There was no congress, particularly like in my state. The governor picked just one night. They said, oh, we have done the primaries, and the list came. You don't even know who the delegates are. They change it at will. And this happened in several states. Now, that's one thing. Even where people are selected, people should be given their free conscience to exercise their franchise by voting for who they want. It is not like that. First, in the selection, like in my state, I give an example, and in several states, most of my colleagues also share the same thing. The governors select those that they will give instruction, and some of them take oath to say it's where the governor says you should vote, you vote. They were directed to vote for particular candidate, and I swear by my God, this is what happened in Kwara State. This is what happened from House of Assembly. In fact, it was funny in one of the House of Assembly in my state, by constituency where I came from, the delegates were initially directed to vote for one male candidate. Then when they got to the hall, they said, no, we have changed it. It is not that person, it will be this woman. In House of Rep that followed, it was forced. The governor had to call one of his aides to say, withdraw. If you don't withdraw, then that means you want to disgrace me. In my own election, the Senate, the governor directed. This is the fact. If it's not, let him come, not through any aides, to say I didn't direct and swear by who that I did not direct vote for a particular person. 17 delegates came back to give me money, which I gave them for logistics. Others did not, because they said we wanted to vote for you, but we are not allowed to vote. This happens. I mean, there was one of my colleagues from Kogi also mentioned that people came back. So in several of the states, this is what happened across the board. Where there's a democratic, transparent process, there will be no complaint. You can imagine we have 68 senators before the primaries in Senate. 30 seats are vacant. Out of these 68, only 28 can have ticket to be able to come back. That is not
28.
28 out of 68. If we look at it like that, if we have a party in government, just like the president said, we are building the party, we are building government, we are building democracy. It takes resources of the country to train senators, for them to have the experience to be able to deliver. At the end of the day, who suffers? What suffers? Is the country. Is it democracy? That's not the democracy we are copying. If you see from America, you see how senators serve. And it's not about performance. I'll give myself as an example from Kwara, where I come from, and nationally it can be assessed. I've performed, to God be the glory, incredibly well. The people wanted me, but the governor did not want it. This is what happens in some of our colleagues. Not everybody seeks for Senate. Some of them seek for other positions like governorship. About 11 of our colleagues seek for governorship. Only 4 got a ticket. But in some places, there was no transparent, open, democratic process. This is why the complaint is there. And as you see when you talk about our grief, why are we meeting the president? Why are we meeting the party stakeholder? We believe in the ideals of the party, and we believe in what APC stands for. I believe in APC. I was one of the leading person in the Otoge struggle we had in Kwara State. I believe strongly in that philosophy and what we stand for. But I wouldn't tolerate what is happening now, where we have mediocres just running the show and coming up. Serving is not only being in the Senate. I've served this country as a medical doctor within other aims. But if I will not be allowed to serve, it should be for a reason. The people are crying that this person has performed, this person has done well. Why, I call, and I'm on television now. I challenge my governor to come and meet me. And one thing again, why are we meeting the president? That for somebody like me, it's up to 1 month now. My governor had not called. He has not called for a meeting with me or with any other person, with me, to say, this is what happened. Can we reconcile? Nobody in Kwara, in the APC, has called me. So that is why we have to come to the national to be able to say, look, we can't allow this party to go like this. So we met the president to discuss. And as you see reported, we have agreed we will save the party. We will reconcile. But it must be, just like the president said, on a transparent process.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about why a number of people because 40 is actually, even within the APC alone, this is not just, the entire 109, from the 109 senators who are currently serving. If 40 are not coming back within a party, you've explained that some of them have gone for a governorship position. There's some who are also affected by rotation. According to some constituencies or some areas, they usually zone it amongst maybe local governments, etc. And that's usually what affects them. I don't know if any one of your senators was affected by that.
Some may. In fact, in my own, it was one of the factors that the governor was trying to raise. We never had in my place anything like rotation because we are a monolithic society. We have 4 local governments, but there are claims that, you should go to these places. But even if it will be, you have an option of doing a second term, then it can be started. There may be some that are affected. But there's one thing I want to narrate also, which is the issue. A party is an institution. Where there are issues like that, the party ought to set up a mechanism to be able to resolve, to be able to agree. Where there are rotations and they are told there will be rotation, it ought to have been discussed pre-primary and say this is what will happen, not to leave things open and say, everybody go obtain from. 2, where it has happened, mechanism should be set up for discussions to hold. It is because this is not happening, that is why you saw people. As we stand, 7 APC senators, they come to other parties. 4 to PDP, 3 to 8 actually, because 3 to NNPP. 1 is yet to state where it's going. Why is this happening? It's because the conflict management mechanism has not been effectively being in place. And this is one of the reasons why we made the president, to put this in place so that we can save the party.
Some people will say, shouldn't you be meeting with the with the chairman of your party?
We did have a meeting with the chairman of the party in the Senate. He did come to the Senate. But the members were not satisfied with the chairman's response. The chairman said he accepted responsibility, he would look at it, but there are no concrete ideas put on ground or steps to say this is how I will address it. This is why we met the president. We also met the presidential candidate before that. And the presidential candidate spoke very well. That is the national leader of the party, Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu. He also met some of us and is meeting the larger group. So you can, if the party itself, because the party is also, I would say, the party leadership at the national level, they are part of the system because they handed over the party, so to say, to the governors to do as they would like. That's why the governors pick their successors, they pick whoever they want to be the Senate, the House of Rep. That's why you see it larger being like that.
We understand that that was a policy of the party. If we were to go by a statement that the president himself read to governors before the primaries, according to what we read in that statement, it was a policy of the party to allow governors pick their successors or for them to get second-term tickets, assuming they were to come back. It was deliberately done by the party, according to that particular statement. But what I wanted to bring out is the fact that it was seen that senators and, in general, legislators saw this coming. With the Electoral Act, they tried to cure that particular problem by putting just direct primaries as the only way that, people, members of a party will be able to choose choose a candidate of their party for whatever elective positions. The president stalled on that and, sent it back asking legislators to include other forms of democracy because, according to him, it was too restrictive. So if this problem has happened now, do you also hold him responsible for the current situation within your party?
Well, not necessarily, Leon, because the indirect primary that was put in place, the legislator put certain caveats, which include democratic election of the delegates. That was not what happened. That's why you have this. I'm going back to the issue of the governors are allowed to choose their successors and so on. As leaders of the party, when you are given leadership, it's a trust. And you must discharge this trust with all sense of responsibility, transparency, and what I would say with what we call a mechanism that allow for peace. But where it is done without such processes, that's why you have what is happening. I won't blame the president. The essential thing why you don't blame the president is because there's possibility of consensus also happening, where there's open dialogue, discussions, and it's agreed that, oh, for this reason, for these reasons, this will have to happen. You can do this, you can do this. It should be like that in an institution, in a party system. Even in the advanced democracy, that can happen. So I wouldn't blame the president. I would blame, it's not the law that's at fault here. It is the operators of the law. It is the way it's been implemented that is giving the problem for the party. And as you see, it's not for the party alone, it's the country. Because to me, as a member serving the legislature, it is Nigeria that will suffer with the high rate of attrition we have in the legislature. Legislative work and legislative processes, it's not just something you buy in the market or you learn in a day. It takes a while. And the more experienced legislator you have, the better in terms of the quality of legislations, not only lawmaking, in terms of how do you oversight, how do you understand the process, even in terms of representation, how do you think through what is the appropriate thing to do for your constituents and your constituency.
Let me flip this to Lagos now, because I know my colleagues have questions for you. Gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning, Senator. One wonders, now with this lack of internal democracy in political parties, some of which you've highlighted, and having met the president, what kind of resolution would you be looking to have now? Because some would like to return or get their ticket. Can that actually happen?
There are various options that are on ground, which the president, through some processes, and the party itself, the party leadership are looking through. Yes, it could be possible. There will be a review. You can hear the president say justice will be done appropriately. So part of justice will be to look, and as parties, there are always options, because there is still a window of opportunities for party to substitute, depending, between now and August. The Electoral Act allows that. There will be also, it's about inclusiveness again. There will be some other ways through which individuals will be taken care of within the system of the party. But the key important thing, which my colleagues, including me, are talking about, is about that recognition. It's about inclusiveness. It's about the fact that you should be counted as being a major stakeholder. The governors are not the only stakeholders in the party. There are several other stakeholders, including the Senate, the House of Representatives, even some leaders who are in various constituencies. All these people are not carried along in this decision making. That's why we have it. So this is the resolutions that we are looking forward to, and that is being put in place by the president, the presidential candidate of the party, as well as the leadership of the party at the national level.
Well, we've had several other Nigerians who came back from the diaspora to contest elections in the country, and some of them say that they actually won their own elections, but the powers that be said, well, no, this person did not want you as their candidate, so they swapped those kind of people's names. So how is this going to work? Is it just going to be for senators or for all the other persons who are aggrieved? Do they call everyone to come forward if you have an issue, or what?
Well, I think it will be across board. It's not only for senators. Senators are only leading because, as you know, as I will say, in terms of the hierarchy of legislation from House of Assembly, House of Reps, senators, that's why senators are distinguished, because there are only 1 or 9 at any particular time. So the senators are not fighting for themselves alone, they are fighting for the entire system. It will be across board.
So, you know, something you said the other time about the governor's roles, how influential they are and all, only raises one question on my mind. How the legislators, whether at the federal or state levels, relate or interface with the governor in the interest of the state. That, you know, ambit I'd like you to speak to. You said just a while ago that, you know, your governor hadn't called you, and perhaps that's the experience of a good number of legislators such as yourself. So I'm wondering, what is missing in that conversation, given that both the governors and the legislators at federal or state levels, they represent the people of the state. So at what point do you think the handshake has become so weak that governors and the legislators, in a loose sense, don't see eye to eye?
I think I will give myself as an example. Hitherto, up to 48 hours before my primary, I'm on the same page with my governor. We relate, we link very well. And this, I'm saying publicly, everybody in Kwara will be able to attest to this. So I would say it's like, for example, my own governor's action, I would term it to be a treacherous action. Because for somebody that we have been relating together, we discuss the issue of the state, the governance of the state, the party. There's no program I do that I don't inform, I don't tell him. We come together. The three of us are senators with him, and even with majority members of the House of Rep. So it's only at the point of this election where the governor just decided, just for data. We met on Thursday. Our primary was on Saturday. On that Thursday, I was at the governor's affirmation because he was the only candidate. That day also we had our assembly. So I'm talking about peculiar things. There was one of my colleagues, especially from Jigawa, who told me up to the 11 p.m. on the day of the primaries, he was still communicating. Only after the 11 p.m., the governor switched off his phone and left the state and traveled out. So because he wanted to do something differently. So just like I said, it's about individuals. It's about people having credibility. It's about people being straightforward about things, not to betray trust, not to be treacherous about actions. That's what I'm talking. It's about leadership. It calls to action. I'm a student of leadership, and I understand the process. There's no issues that cannot be discussed. To me, all these issues, if they had been roundtable across the state, as leaders, saying it's only one seat for a particular position, and it's only one person that will be there. I've been in the politics since 1996, and I participated in 2003. I was very active in my state. We will come together at a roundtable and say, okay, this particular seat, there are 10 or so people looking for it. How do we analyze? Okay, you could go for something else. You could go for something else. This is what we will do. This is why we have to be like this. You dialogue. Through that, you have a seamless process. But I don't see this happening. This is what I'm talking about. Like in my state, in some constituency House of Assembly, you saw 10, 15 people obtaining form. I told the governor, this should not happen. Let's come around together, discuss it. But you say, oh, let's leave. But because, as they said in my Yoruba, well, you don't go to court and come back to be friends. But it is, if you join your dialogue, you can easily come together. It's lack of that dialogue in many places that you see these grievances coming up.
Well, Senator,
so it's not as if there is disconnect in some places there may be, but particularly in some states, it's only about when it comes to this election. It's because people are not transparent, people are not applying the principle of inclusive leadership. Because leadership includes how do you manage people?
Well, Senator, you know, one of the issues that also comes to mind as you spoke, and which has been an issue for me, is something that you said the other time, that, you know, the president is the leader of the party. And if the president is the leader of the party at the national level, it presupposes that the governor, who, if the governor is in a particular ruling party, is the leader of the party in that state. So it just raises a question in my own mind about the role of the party structure itself. If the executive head of government is also the leader of the party, where lies the function of the chairman of the party? gratifying that you said you've been in politics since 1996. Of course, you knew what happened in the Third Republic, the botched Third Republic, where the national chairman of the party monitored the activities of elected officials of the party. How come that kind of thing is not happening now, such that it's the person who is supposed to face governance that is also facing politics? Isn't that part of the reason why this problem, that the aggrieved senators are raising is rising?
I think it is, and I want to say publicly that we discussed this as senators. It's part of the nonsense in our democracy. It's because there are no effective membership contribution to build party in Nigeria. And I think this started, even not now, it started since the beginning of this Fourth Republic. Because where members have become effective financial contributor to parties, where members are able to democratically elect the leadership of even the party itself, then that influence will be diminished. I do see it is because in terms of funding of the party, the head of executive contributes more than any other stakeholders in the party. This is why that comes on board. So it's a national issue. It's not only in the APC, it's across, even in the PDP, with all the major parties, even in other parties that are smaller where they have governors. This do happen. The cure to that will be to ensure that individual members of parties contribute and they have equal right, equal say in terms of what happened in the parties. We need to get it, and it's part of what we are discussing. And I think it's part of what we want to look at in the Electoral Act. The Senate yesterday, as you may recall, members are trying to say we bring back the Electoral Act to look at how to strengthen the process. So I think as we go along, we have to strengthen it and get the party to belong to the member. The Speaker of the House of Reps has mentioned it one time. That's why we are talking about direct primary, that if democracy is actually government of the people, by the people, for the people should own the party, not the leaders across board anywhere.
Well, that actually feeds into this next question, because this is a big question mark on our leadership recruitment process in terms of ensuring that people who have something to offer the country are the ones who are presented by the political parties. Because if this is quote-unquote resolved today, what stops the governor tomorrow, or new governor, from doing the same thing? But now that you say that they're going to look into those laws, do we expect that perhaps before or within this window, 6-7 months window, that the Assembly will come through with that amendment such that there'll be a proper structure put in place where people will have equal rights with several other persons?
I should think so. The discussions, there are two views. One is to do it immediately now. There's another one which says, can we go through all this org and see what the experience is with this current Electoral Act and allow the next, that is the incoming Parliament, the 10th Assembly, to now harness all the experiences that have been garnered. Because like any other man-made laws, there are always sometimes where you see flaws, and you only know this after you have experimented it. Because there are issues also. This is the first time we're experiencing a long period between when candidates are selected or elected rather, and the election will come. It's a very new experience. We have to see what happens. We have to see it in terms of the cost, how does it affect governance? Because so to say now, from September when campaign will start, will people be able to face governance? Will the system not suffer? So we have to look at all this. And that is the opinion of the Senate President yesterday when he was commenting when the former majority leader raised the issue of, now let's look at the Electoral Act. And he was saying, let us go through this process. And I remember an informal discussion we've had before to say, we really need to test this new law. Let's see what are, because there are flaws now already being seen with all this issue of delegate election. We have to look, how do we strengthen it to ensure really that is democracy actually happen? How do we strengthen the party system itself? Because there must be a way through which we set a mechanism where you monitor, the system should be able to monitor membership drive, membership contribution to political parties. So it may be, just straight to your question, it is most likely to be after this dispensation before the Electoral Act will be looked at in its entirety, instead of the piecemeal or knee-jerk actions to say, let us review it or amend it now.
I'm curious. I mean, the Senate president was not a part of that delegation to the president yesterday. There's still questions as to whether or not he got his own ticket back. Did he get it?
Well, that one I wouldn't want to comment because I'm not in the party. I don't know who the party submitted as candidate or not. But why he was not there is because if you know about legislature, the chief whip, part of his action is to whip members, is to ensure that members toe or follow party line. Ideally, the person should probably do that should be the majority leader also. But as we speak, in APC, the majority leader of the party has defected to PDP. So that's why the chief whip stepped in. Because after the terms of the hierarchy, the Senate president officially ought to be bipartisan because he leads the entire Senate.
Yeah.
So, but party matters.
But he has his own grievances as well. I mean,
I think that one is not reflected, and I don't know how that has been resolved or not. So I'm not in the right position to be able to speak on that. I think it may be asked about that. What is the situation?
Are you still a member of the APC?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I believe in APC. I believe in the tenet of APC.
So what exactly are you hoping will happen now? Because as we speak, you're still saying that Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak has not called you yet.
Yes.
You've accused him of treachery.
Yes, I did. I'm doing that.
I'm just clarifying that that's what you've done. And you met with the president. What exactly are the concretes that you were able to take out of that meeting? What is reassuring you as a party member that perhaps you've been listened to and something is going to be done about it? If I didn't ask you, what precisely do you want to be done about it?
I think what will be done will be through dialogue. And I wouldn't want to discuss precisely what that would be because it's not resolved yet. It's a process. I mean, the president set up some mechanism through which this will be resolved. And since its issues still being discussed will be resolved, I hope that it will be resolved in the best interest of the party, but more importantly, in the best interest of the people. Because just like, I think it's somebody that said it, a political party should present candidates that will serve better. Because like with all sense of humility and responsibility, I say it openly, my performance can be assessed. Is reward for good, for good work for performance, rejection? Is it replacement? This is the answer that the governor needs to answer and anybody. So the process, when you say what am I expecting? My expectation is justice and fairness, just like the president said. And justice and fairness have several dimensions. Whatever dimension it will be through the dialogue and the discussions that will happen. Part of the reason why we are complaining why we went to the president is because there's nothing that has been set up. Like for me in my state, nobody, it's 1 month now. Does it mean I don't matter? I'm not just a novice in politics and I'm nobody. I represent people. I'm still serving my people. I didn't allow that to matter to me. I continue to serve in the Senate. I presented a report last week. In fact, today I have matters before the Senate which I'll be attending to. And I continue to serve my constituents and my constituency. So I'm a member of APC. I believe in the tenet of APC. And I believe in serving the people.
I just want to quickly take up on a little matter with you. You talked about how some would-be delegates returned monies to you. And some people have complained. I mean, there's anything that we heard about a lot in this primaries. It was the role that money played, even though, I mean, as a journalist, I attended a lot of the conventions, but I hardly saw anything. But we heard, and we also saw delegates who went back to their constituencies to say this was how much I got, and you know, I'm giving it back to my constituency or my society, as the case might be. We heard those kinds of stories. Now, I'm wondering, given just what happened to you and what you have also said here, are you also bothered about the role that money continues to play in our politics?
Yes, I'm bothered because it shouldn't be. It should be. That's part of what I'm talking about when you have a strong party. Logistics for example, in my constituency, we have rural areas. We have people that have to travel to the state capital. To do senatorial election, for example, people have to travel. To do gubernatorial, people have to travel. To do presidential. So who pays for this logistics? It should be the party, but the party is not buoyant enough. So one way or the other, candidates have to facilitate transport, feeding, accommodation for delegates before
How
that.
is it
that is the one that
the
I know
party
about.
is not buoyant, but the members of the party are buoyant enough to
It is all, I think that boils down to organization.
Yes.
Because when you say the party is not buoyant, it's because there are no contributory system in our party system into the party by members. Once we have that, then it will be. But more importantly, I think it's also more about educating the people to know their right and to be able to know that the choice they are making is about the choice of who serves. It's not about the individual. It's not the one day. So this brings the question for us to debate as a country. Which method is better? It should be the direct system. In direct system, you don't have to travel or do the logistics. You vote in your ward. And if that is it, then there will be no need to be able to talk about money playing any role because all these logistics will not be there. So these are the debates that I think we have to have. You know, the Parliament, the National Assembly initially wanted only direct because we felt that is where there's people's participation. Once you have delegate, but again, delegate is not as bad if it is democratically done, where there's a Congress and somebody, because where I am now, it's like a delegate system also. If you're a senator, you're a rep, I'm being delegated by the people to represent their views. My constituents has about a voting population of close to 1 million or so, or more, about 1.5 million now. So I'm representing 1.5 million people. I'm delegated by those 1.5 million to speak for them at the Senate to represent them. That's delegate. And I carry that body. It's the same thing with the delegate system for the party. The only thing is the way it is being used now. That is the issue.
Well, we'll see how matters are resolved in the coming days. He says what he's seeking is fairness and justice, and he says it has many dimensions which he's not willing to disclose here, but I'm sure when eventually it is resolved, you let us know. We've been speaking with Senator Dr. Ibrahim Yahaya Olori-Egbe, who is representing Kwara Central Senatorial District and is the current chairman, Senate Committee on Health. Thank you once again for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.